We don't listen. We listen to respond instead of listen to learn. People have as people are listening, they're already formulating responses instead of like really getting stoic and just absorbing the question to understand it the way that it was delivered,
Wow.
instead of thinking about our answer right away.
Steve, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you. How are you today?
I'm great, Solomon. Thank you for having me, as always.
In my history of this podcast, you're the only guest that has come multiple times. So I just want you to know that should tell you something, that every time we talk, you ask, there's more of you that I want to have, if that makes sense. More knowledge, more wisdom, more strategies, if that makes sense.
I'm blessed. Thank you so much for
I,
making me
I
feel
think
special.
I think it has something to do with your daily routine, Steve, if that makes sense, at 4:15 in the morning. Do you mind telling our audience what you do at 4 o'clock in the morning every day?
At 4 a.m. in the morning, yeah, non-negotiable, intense fitness, mindset, and spirituality training every single day, condensed into 1 hour.
Wow. And what do you call that ritual?
I call it the Hour of Champions.
And I feel like every single person needs that. You know what I mean? And by the way that you and I know each other is not through the Hour of Champions, is you coaching me for all of the things that I've been involved in, business, marketing, all the things that I do. And over time, I've seen how you've developed the Hour of Champion, and it's a movement, and there's a Facebook group, which I recommend everybody to go and join. I want to ask you, Steve, from all the entrepreneurs that you work with, and even non-entrepreneurs, what are some of the biggest mistakes that we make every single day that we can avoid and then all of a sudden see better success?
Great question. We don't listen. We listen to respond instead of listen to learn. As people are listening, they're already formulating responses instead of like really getting stoic and just absorbing the question to understand it the way that it was delivered,
Wow.
instead of thinking about our answer right away.
And is that just, I guess it's like across the board. It's not just entrepreneurs.
It's not just entrepreneurs. It's little school children all the way up to full grown adults. We are all guilty of that until somebody points it out to us. We become cognizant of it, and then we work hard to be more attentive, and the questions become more thorough. We absorb them more thoroughly and then are able to answer them super intelligently.
Out of curiosity, how did you even find out this was one of the biggest mistakes that people make?
I did it. I got caught doing it. I didn't let a friend of mine finish a story one time that he was telling me. I interjected and I hijacked the story. And he looked at me and he said, "You know what you are?" And I said, "No, what's that?" He said, "You're a pouncer." And I said, "What's a pouncer?" And he said, "A person that can't wait to jump on and tell his story before he even listens to the other person finish theirs." And when he delivered that to me, he was spot on. He was. And now I instinctively know when I'm about to pounce. And I've taught this to many people along the way. And even in conversation, if they want to jump in before I'm done, they'll say to me, "I'm not going to pounce." So it works. And it's very powerful. It was a very powerful message. To me, it hit me like a right hook in the jaw, but my friend was right, and it changed my life.
Steve, I remember that story that you're telling me, and I appreciate you reminding me of it. Outside of that listening thing, Steve, what other things do you see entrepreneurs making mistake? I know you coach a lot of us, including me. What are some obvious things that we all do, pouncing or not listening to speak rather than listen to understand?
Yeah, I think people look for instant gratification. They want their problems and issues solved yesterday instead of doing the hard work that's involved that will really create like a really concrete result. They want that silver bullet, that quick fix. And anytime something is fixed like too quickly, it's not built to last.
Wow. And I know this because you built so many businesses and it took you years and years to scale those businesses. It was not overnight.
No, I've come to realize the formula that I fit best into. I try to surround myself with really successful, smart people, and I become a really necessary piece of an overall puzzle. And that works best for me. I'm not a
Right.
jack of all trades. I know what I'm good at. I try to surround myself with people that overcome my weaknesses, let me do what I do best. And so far, that formula has allowed me to win at several of the business ventures that I've been involved in.
How long did it take you guys to exit the last business? Because you were talking about how long things take. There's no instant fix. There's no silver bullet. Just
Yeah, that
trying
was
to learn.
12 years, 12 years from startup till exit. Probably could have been sooner, maybe even later, still had a lot of runway left, but it was time. Sometimes there's a great cliche in business that I've heard and in life. What got you here won't get you there. So
Wow.
our brain power got us to where we were capable of taking it, and it was ready for the next leg of the journey. And it was 12 years of hard, intense.
Right. When I know entrepreneurs putting 6 months into a new business and they're ready to give up.
Yeah, the problem with that is, you never know how close you are to greatness because we don't get to see the script. I always say that's the good news and the bad news. We don't get to see the script. And a lot of times I feel overwhelmed or stressed out by things that I'm in. I have my go to person, a fellow that I message on Facebook, a warrior from Minnesota. And a few times I've messaged him, I feel like quitting. And he said to me, anybody can quit. You're not an anybody. And that just reignites me to keep going.
Wow. I was going to say, I don't know anybody, I didn't know you would ever feel that because knowing you, you're always cheering me on when I'm ready to quit.
I'm only human. Humans have their flaws. We need our go-to people. I too reach out to you for advice, for wisdom. You're a smart guy, and we've grown together since 2009 when we first met. And I always know that when there's something relative to the space that you operate in, I could reach out to you and get a quick answer, a confident, quick answer, and I'm very grateful for that.
No, I appreciate that, Steve. Likewise, too. I think it's been a great growth journey, and I cannot tell you the amount of things that you taught me.
Can you tell me one specifically?
I would say it's the quote that you're always busy, and being busy, the accomplishment. What is it? Let me get that straight. Don't mistake activity to achievement. There you go.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Do not confuse activity with achievement.
That is correct. That has changed my life. Now, I do a lot of activity and I compare it. Is this helping me get to where I'm going, or is this just keeping me busy?
Yeah, we're all guilty of that. The great news is that we do it and then we can put the brakes on and ask ourselves the question and then change direction quickly because there's nobody better at fooling us than us.
Right.
I can fool myself better than you can fool me.
Right.
I know that inherently about me and my existence. So I have to be really careful of the stories that I tell myself and how I allow myself to operate.
Absolutely. Steve, I was going to say, if you don't mind, would you mind at least illustrating that journey from being the victim to the hero? You don't have to draw anything if you don't have any board in front of you, but just explain it because that helps me understand better and better every time how, I'm feeling like that victim right now. You know what I mean? It's that victim mentality. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is great because I was just coaching a young man just prior to joining our call here, and I'll deliver them in a little different way that hopefully will allow the audience to use it as they move forward. But I always say you can't change your story, but you can change the way you tell your story, and that can change your entire trajectory, right? So if you tell a story from the role of the victim, feeling sorry for yourself, other victims will find their way into your life. Crap will follow you all over the place. You get to feel sorry for yourself. You don't expect much from yourself because you're a victim and you're not capable of much. But always somewhere within that victim story, there's a hero hiding somewhere. There's a better way to tell that story. The same exact story, telling it from the hero side. And conversely, when you do that, when you tell the story about how you stayed in the fight, you had sleepless nights, but you didn't give up. You reached out for advice. You worked hard. You traveled. You did whatever it took to get the job done. That's the hero side of it. And conversely, heroes then find their way into your world and give you the opportunity to get to heights you never even dreamt of. Heroes love heroes. Victims love victims. And heroes don't like victims. They don't want to be, they part themselves from victims. They wait for you to tell your story from the hero side, and then they connect with you and great things happen.
Steve, I have a question for you. For all the times that you talk to me, you always tell me like you have to coach somebody out of that victim story to the hero story. do you know why we naturally go to that victim mode, the victim story mode?
It's just an easy, safe place to be. When we get there, it's very safe. But as sadistic as that sounds, it's just we've convinced ourselves that we're not capable of doing something, so we get to give up. And then we've convinced ourselves that people don't expect much of us either. And then it really takes digging down into your soul to ask yourself the question, is that true, or is that what I'm telling myself? And if the answer is that's what I'm telling myself, then you've created an option. You've created
Got
an
it.
option to jump on the heroic road also. And I was just chatting with a young man, and he basically told me that he had bipolar disorder and he wasn't capable of doing much. And my message, we were doing this over Facebook Messenger, and I
Sure.
asked him if there was anybody else out there that he knew of with bipolar disorder that had conquered it and made a super success of himself. And he rattled off like 8 or 10 names. And I said, why don't you just join the club? Yeah. You just told me it was doable. Your story has no evidence. Your story of the saga of the victim, there's no evidence that has to be forever.
Jeez, that's awesome. I don't think I've ever asked you what are some of your top books that you recommend somebody like myself or an entrepreneur.
Wow. I am a very spiritual person. Business books are great, but the component that keeps me going in life was really connecting to the spiritual part of my
Okay.
journey. So I would say The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman is a terrific book to help you open up a part of your soul that you might not even know is there.
Wow.
On the pure business side, I love Good to Great by Jim Collins. I do believe that you have a way better chance of succeeding with the right team than you do with the wrong team in the right business, if that makes sense.
It
Right?
does.
Like if you have the right team in place, you can conquer just about anything. So that book, and then of course, not to be self-promoting, but I will anyways, my own book that I wrote, The
The
Titan.
Titan.
I think believe that there's 6 or 7 principles in there that are
Yeah.
imperative for living the life of an entrepreneur. Knowing your story is certainly one, surrounding yourself with success, giving the gift, as we've spoken about many times, as well as others. I believe that my short book is super impactful. So I'll promote it as long as you allow me to.
Absolutely. I was going to say, if there's one like principle that you would like to leave behind to everybody you ever talk to, what would that be?
I think that you really have to become introspective and really understand your story and be able to rewind your life all the way back. People say the past is the past. It is, but the past is also a beautiful navigational system for your future. So if
Right.
you can document the mistakes that you've made and not repeat them over because you became inquisitive enough to find them and understand them, and then conversely, find all the things that helped you become successful and implement those over and over again, you can find a lot of power in knowing your own story. And I'm a big believer in that.
Thank you, Steve. How can they find you?
Anybody can find me at Hour of Champions. My website is hourofchampions.com. My Facebook community is Hour of Champions, not the Hour of Champions, but Hour of Champions. It's a free community of like minded people all trying to grow in life, business, and spirit together. I welcome any and all. You might have to answer a few questions to allow me to let you in, but Hour of Champions Facebook group. And again, Hour of Champions, Steve at hourchampions.com is my email address if you want to reach out. I always return emails. Solomon will tell you, I believe I'm one handshake away from somebody who can change my life forever. So reach out to me.
Hey, before I let you go, I appreciate that because what you just said is send me an email, I'll reach out to you. But you've done the same in the past, and then they wouldn't reach out to you. And sometimes these people aren't like the president of the United States, busy.
Yeah,
You
I
want to
do it
share
all the time.
that
You're talking about
frustration?
like my fearless approach to just reaching out to anybody.
Or the fact that you reached out to somebody, they didn't even have the courtesy to email back because they're so busy or whatever it is. But I like to do it where, hey, look, I'm really busy right now. Could we circle back 6 months from now rather than just what happened? And I think you've called me several times to tell me, like, whether it's business or personal, whatever, it's just maybe it's the millennials, maybe it's certain generations, like they just ignored
Yeah, I have that happen frequently. I do believe it's millennials. They ignore when you reach out to them, and sometimes you feel silly because you keep reaching out, but I'm not going to change my stripes. That's who I am. Karma is a bitch, as we know, and it'll come back to haunt them. That you asked me at the onset, like the most important things in business, and I will tell you, like in closing, the other thing is you have to be able to check your ego at the door and
Yes.
realize you're just one person. You're not the universe.
Yep.
I get discouraged because I reach out to everybody, whether they're
Hmm.
rock stars or average people. And I think that what you're doing here, just having somebody like me on here and other guests that you'll have, is so important for the average person that will find this, because the podcasters that are interviewing superstars, the superstars don't have the time to share and reach back and help you solve your problems. It gets almost nauseating to hear the same super story over and over again. Let's interview
Right.
average people that stay out of the eddy.
Correct. That's another episode in itself. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for the last whatever minutes, Steve.
I appreciate you, Solomon. You're a rock star in your own world, and I hope that people that get into your orbit understand that about you and take advantage of your wisdom.
I learned a ton from you, and I could say the same, Steve. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. See ya.
Peace.